Good morning, everybody. Today I'll be playing another Tron list that isn't my list. A few things that I've noticed about this particular list. Number one, this one runs a sack land in addition to 4 sources, not just replacing one with it, so that's kind of good for Field of Ruin being as heavy as it is the metagame. Also, it was a Horizon Canopy. I don't have it, but there's no white in this deck, so I just run a Nurturing Peatland. Relic is back in these lists, which could be good or bad. There's a lot of grave stuff happening, and I'm noticing O-Stone also back in this list, because for a while it seemed to have disappeared. In the side, there's some questionable decisions. I don't know why you would sideboard All Is Dust. If you're going to play it, I think you'd want it in the main deck. And I don't know why you play Batterskull when you're not maxed out on Thragtusks, I guess. I think you'd rather play Thragtusk, but I'm not the one that built this list. I'm just the one that's going to play it. So, alright. One moment. Alrighty. Round 1, here we go. Sorry, I forgot to get tickets before I started up the league. It's been a morning. Coffee's great, though. Alright, we have a Tron piece, a Nurturing Peatland, a Chromatic Star, and an Ancient Stirring. Without getting lucky, this is not going to be a quick Tron, especially on the draw, so I'm going to mulligan. Trying to get something a little bit faster than that. This might work. It's still pretty risky, and the payoff after getting Tron is not that high. It's a Wormcoil engine, which, if my opponent's playing aggro, could be good, but I'm not thrilled about it. But we have 2 redraws at least. So a draw for turn, 3, 4, draw for another turn, and then 5 looks at a Tron piece on a second land. So that's 9 looks to find a second land and potentially a third. Alright. We'll keep. I'll put back Thragtusk. Oh my god, if this is Ponza again, I'll be really upset. Okay, looks like it's just like Jund Death Shadow or maybe Black Red Burn. Luris. Alright, I think it's the burn deck. In which case, keeping a hand that potentially plays a Wormcoil engine quickly is a good idea. Okay, opponent plays a Bloodstained Mire. That just shocks. Bump in the Night. Wow. I mean, that's what you splash black for, is an additional lava spike. Alright, it's turn 2 and we're down to 7. My opponent has 2 cards in hand. We untap and draw another Wormcoil. We hit Urza's Mine. Ancient Stirrings. We're trying to hit a different Tron piece to play this turn. And we get a little bit unlucky and we don't. Yeah, I take Chromatic Star here. Rest to the bottom. Play Urza's Mine. Play Chromatic Star. Pass the turn. It's extremely unlikely we live 2 more turns. Yeah, extremely unlikely. So, opponent hits us for 1, we go to 6. Yep. Okay, but now we know what we're playing against. So, Veil of Summer can counter the whole Bump of the Night situation. Dismember sucks because our opponent's playing Scourge of the Skyclaves, but hopefully can stop us from taking tons and tons of damage. I'm actually just going to drop Ulamogs, because it's like we're never ever going to get to that much mana before it's relevant. We would much rather be playing any of these. I kind of want to bring in the other Wormcoil too, though I don't know if I'm going to. I still have to find a card to cut. It might be Relic. I know my opponent's playing Luris, but like, we should never get to a point of the game where Luris is actually going to be good. Like, if my opponent's casting Luris, they should be losing. If they're taking a turn off of killing us. What I'm saying is we should never get to the grindy portion of the game. This is a 2 Ancient Stirrings hand. We have 1 Tron piece. We're on the play. I think we gotta go for something a little bit faster. This is close. Not quite, though. And we got it. Alright. We'll put back Ancient Stirrings, Chromatic Star. Start Mine Map. Pass the turn. First Karn, provided of course our mana does not get disrupted, is going to get a Trinisphere. And that might actually be too slow. Heck, at this point it might be an Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, opponent attacks for 3, we go to 17. They draw a card. We draw Worm Coil Engine. They look at the top card of our deck. Play Power Plant, pass the turn. Okay, opponent cracks Bloodstained Mire. Second Swift Spear. It's actually pretty scary. Bolt. Okay, so we're going down to 10. We're going lower than 10. That's 8. In addition to 3, so we're going to 6. Now we have to play Worm Coil. Even though it's not necessarily the greatest. If we take Trinisphere, they can just play a land, cast a single spell, and we lose. So, I mean, Worm Coil is by no means guaranteed to actually let us win here, especially because my opponent's playing Bump in the Night, which means they have a disproportionate number of bolts in their deck, meaning that our opponent could very well just Lava Spike, Bump in the Night, Double Bump, etc., and we would just be dead. We kind of just have to hope that they don't have that. Are we dead to Tamer Battle Rage? Unbelievable. So this gains double strike, meaning that first strike happens before regular combat damage happens. The good news is, if we played Karn, either one, we would have lost that match just as hard because my opponent had a bolt and we were at 6, so they would have bolted us and attacked us for 4. And then Snaring Bridge wouldn't have done it, Trinisphere wouldn't have done it, so we put up a good fight, but it just really wasn't in our favor that time. Okay. Round 2. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear my clicks. The new mouse came, and it is just as loud as the old mouse, and I'm kind of pissed about it. So, if anyone has any recommendations for very quiet mice, like with silent clicks, please leave them in the comments below. I'd much appreciate that. We do have 2/3 of Tron, but we have no way to cast any of this other stuff in our hand. And even though like it's kind of likely we draw Chromatic Stars as an example, I've never seen all 4 in one hand. I think we got a mulligan. Alright, I'm going down to 4. Okay. This is effectively our hand of 5, but do we keep the Ancient Stirrings or the Sylvan Scrying? I think the Sylvan Scrying. Yeah, this is effectively our hand of 7 that we initially had. Just all the redundancy cut out of it. So I mean, like, you know, it was worth mulliganing this low because we basically are doing the same thing on 4 that we would have with a hand of 7. Our chance to draw cards is slightly lessened because there are more cards in our deck, obviously, but with Tron, that shouldn't be too huge of a deal. Alright, our opponent's playing a deck with Street Wraith in it. Could be Belcher, could be Death Shadow, could be... Heck, it could be Dredge. Second Street Wraith. It's almost certainly Death Shadow, though. Bloodstained Mire. Fetches. Shocks. Akoum Hellhound. Here we go. Opponent is playing some kind of landfall aggro. Alright. Minor Forest or Chromatic Sphere Star. All of those would be good. Map might be too slow, but it would still work. Alright, here's a question. Akoum Hellhound is by no means a bad card. Like at all. But in this deck, they don't run that many lands. They run a lot of fetches, so I mean, it's going to do a lot of damage, but like, they don't run that many lands. So maybe they don't need it to deal that much damage that for that many turns in a row. Just a couple of hits of 4 might be enough. So opponent hits us for 6. Sure. Is this the same deck? This might be the same deck. Alright, there's a Death Shadow. We untap, they draw. Okay, we basically have to crack this for green and draw land. Cool. So that happened. I kind of want to take Blast Zone, because Worm Coil's probably not going to be enough. But if my opponent has a if my opponent has a fetch land, we die. If my opponent casts like 2 or more spells, we're probably dead. Yeah, I'll take mine. Pass the turn. We might be able to play an Ensnaring Bridge or a Worm Coil or something. Okay. That's 1 damage from lethal. And they got us. Alright. I'll bring in Veil of Summer. I gotta bring in Dismembers. And we're going down Ulamog because it's just too expensive. And I'm probably going down Relic, actually. Relic is one of our cantrips, and my opponent might be using the Grave, but at the same time, we have to take out something to interact with the board. I don't think hitting the Grave is as important. Alright, natural Tron into O-Stone, I guess. Well, it's not natural Tron, but it's a turn 3 Tron. So I'm going to keep it. This does give us the opportunity to dismember something along the way, hopefully. Yeah, I've got a feeling we're going to have to adjust the Tron list for the new metagame. If these are the kind of decks that we're playing against, we won't really have a choice. And the only things I can think of are extremely janky tech. But if my opponent is playing aggro decks that are going to kill me on turn 2, I'm going to be playing some very weird spells to stay in the game. Okay, opponent starts a Coom Hellhound. Sure. We draw a second Dismember. Play Tower, pass the turn. Problem is, dismembering is not great when you're playing it against a deck that wants you to be dead very quickly. Okay, opponent plays a Swift Spear. We're going to take the same amount of damage this way that we normally would. We just force our opponent to use up one of their landfall triggers. We have nothing to play immediately off of a turn 3 Tron, so we're going to make it a turn 4 Tron. Okay, opponent shocks a Blood Crypt. I should probably turn off auto yields in the event that I need to dismember for other reasons. So, like, I could take 2 extra damage and take out their only other threat. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna. We still take a ridiculous amount of damage, but now my opponent only has 1 card in hand. 8 of that damage was self-inflicted. Okay, Ulamog. So let's go get mine. Play mine, pass the turn. If we top deck a tower, this game is over. It might be over right now, I just can't confirm or deny that. If my opponent plays anything, like a Death Shadow, we can O-Stone it. Okay, we can O-Stone that. Play Oblivion Stone. I'm just going to cast it now, because I'm going to activate it now because I'm lazy. And I don't feel like trying to hold mana on their turn and watching them cast something else I'm not aware exists. Okay, opponent Thought Seizes and takes Ulamog. So in this scenario, because we already have Tron assembled, we're going to Sylvan Scrying to get a Blast Zone. Unless we draw Karn, of course, in which case we just cast Karn. Now, I should have Sylvan Scryinged and then played Karn so I could still hit a land. But I was so excited about Karn. You can't really blame me for making that minor punt. We'll do it again next turn, no worries. Okay, opponent plays a Mishra's Bauble, which means unless they draw... They need to crack it right now. Yeah, I think that was a mistake. Okay. But I guess that's fine. So, plus Karn. So it looks like they were trying to just dodge Karn uptick, which is fine. We'll Sylvan Scrying, get a Blast Zone, play Blast Zone, and pass the turn. So, if I was my opponent, I would have cracked that, and probably just dealt with the fact that if I had drawn a sorcery speed anything, my opponent would have to deal with it. But I guess this is also fair. I probably would have taken the wrong line, is basically what I'm telling you. Okay, opponent gives up, they can't beat a resolved Karn. Yeah. Go ahead and run this back. Okay. Game 3, double Ancient Stirrings is Dismember. I got a feeling that's probably not going to be interactive enough, and my opponent mulliganed anyway. Alright, turn 3 Tron into Karn. Let's do it. We do get wrecked by a Thoughtseize. So hopefully that's not my opponent's start. We'll drop Thragtusk. Okay. Opponent plays Bloodstained Mire. Cracks it. Gets a Blood Crypt untapped. A Coom Hellhound. Perfect, it wasn't a Thoughtseize. We untap. We draw an Ancient Stirrings. So play Urza's Mine, play Map, pass the turn. My opponent could have Smash to Smithereens, or they could have like a Shatter Spree, something like that. Okay. It would appear they do not. And even if they did, it's not like we could play around it. We'd still have to do exactly what we just did. The problem is Karn is probably not going to win here. Okay, I was hoping they didn't have a second land, but they did just, like, use their entire hand to make this board. Okay, they fetch and shock a Stomping Ground. Crack Bauble, looking at us. Okay, they hit us for 7. We go to 13. We draw Chromatic Star. Yeah, just gotta go for the Tron play. If we get into a situation where Karn doesn't save us, then we basically have to play Chromatic Star, crack it for green, and try and hit Wormcoil. And if that doesn't save us, then we're just boned. Alright. This opponent has a 4-card hand. We're at 13. They play a second Swift Spear. They found a fetch land, because of course they did. They crack it. They'll probably play and shock a land. Alright. So if my opponent has Battle Rage, I think we die? No, we'd go to 1 if that was the case. Okay, we go to 7. Okay, opponent plays a big old Death Shadow. I only have 1 card in hand now. Blast Zone does not do it, because we don't have enough lands. So we gotta take mine. Untap. Oh, crap. Does anyone spot the mistake? Always make sure you grab the right Tron land, kids. I thought this was Power Plant. I mean, we probably weren't winning anyway. And now we're definitely not. Let's see. Okay, we draw Ulamog, Ancient Stirrings. Well. Take Wormcoil. I'm so sorry. I took a game that wasn't, I took a game that we were like maybe 10-15% to win, and I turned it into like a 0. Okay. So had I played Karn, I was going to downtick on Death Shadow. So we're taking, right now, 2 more damage than we would normally. Okay, we're going to 2, so I would be at 4. Okay, let me top deck Blast Zone, please. Yeah. So actually, with that line, we would have won that game. We'd have played Karn, downticked on Death Shadow. Our opponent would have either attacked us directly, or they would have had to kill Karn. And if they'd killed Karn, we'd be at, like, 7 instead. Then we'd have 7 mana, we'd play Wormcoil Engine, and I don't think my opponent could beat that, not without Tamer Battle Rage shenanigans. And with us at that high of a life total, wouldn't have mattered. So, I think we were actually going to win that game because of my opponent's anemic follow-up to that. So, that is my bad for punting that match. I am so sorry, everybody. So, let that be a lesson to all of you. Before you search for your final Tron piece, make sure you know which one you're grabbing. That is a rookie mistake. I am so sorry. I think in the vast majority of cases, that mistake wouldn't have actually mattered because, like if my opponent had a Lightning Bolt, and they run like 12 because they had Bump in the Night, Lava Spike, and Lightning Bolt, we would have just died immediately. Like, it doesn't matter if we played Karn or not. We would have just died. Right. No Tron pieces mulligan. No Tron pieces mulligan. A Tron piece. A map. Alright, we'll keep this. I'm going to put back Ugin, and I'm going to put back Relic. Okay. Opponent starts Flooded Strand. Breeding Pool tapped. Okay. So we're probably against some kind of control deck or Uro deck, meaning that I want to get Map out there. I have redundant spheres and stars. Map is an effect I don't have a redundant piece of, so... Alright, opponent plays a Steam Vents. This is almost certainly like the Teamer or 4-color Uro. Void Snare. Well, we are in the loser's bracket. I don't know what's happening anymore. So play Sanctum of Ugin. Play Chromatic Sphere. You gonna Spell Pierce this? Okay. Crack for green. Ancient Stirrings. Yeah, we'll take a tower. Any land is better than no land, but this is... we're getting a little bit unlucky with our Ancient Stirrings hits. Ah, that makes more sense now. So this is the Twiddlestorm combo list. The good news is I think we have sideboard that'll fight this, and I think we have lines that will beat this. The bad news is they're a one-sided, like, solitaire-style combo. So, play Sphere. Crack Sphere for green. Do they play anything that interacts with the grave? It's been a long time since I've seen Lotus Field Twiddlestorm. Let me check 1 second. They do. They have Past in Flames. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to play our other star here. We're going to play Tower. Crack for green. We drew Power Plant. Play Relic. There's a good chance my opponent just goes off and kills us, right? So maybe I should have just played Relic and left up a land. That was probably the actual line. Not whatever I just did. But if we're not dead, we'll play Power Plant, play Map off of Sanctum, leave up Relic activation, and then we'll get... yeah, we're dead. So my opponent just cast Ideas Unbound, splicing a Psychic Puppetry onto it, meaning that it is a twiddle in addition to drawing a card. My opponent just incorrectly twiddled an already untapped Lotus Field without tapping it again. That may or may not matter. But with the number of arcane spells my opponent's casting, it definitely doesn't matter. So, for those of you that don't know what Lotus Field is, like Lotus Field Twiddlestorm, I'll explain it really quick. Basically, the idea is you play Twiddlestorm, or you play Lotus Field, which is a land that taps for 3 mana. It has hexproof, and when it enters, you sack 2 lands. So you have to play it as your 3rd land or, later. The rest of the deck is a whole bunch of cantrips, and most of which are arcane spells, because there's a card called Psychic Puppetry, which you can use to splice onto a permanent, or splice onto an arcane spell. And then every single time you cast an arcane spell, if you pay 1 more blue, you can have an additional twiddle to untap your Lotus Field. Then you just kill your opponent with a Grape Shot. There's also Past in Flames in the deck, etc. So play Power Plant, play Expedition Map, and we gotta let our opponent have another turn. It looks like they fizzled, but they also didn't realize that they were twiddling an already untapped land. We don't have a great follow-up, though. Even Karn doesn't really do anything against their deck because their land has hexproof. Okay. They peer through the depths. They pick up Ideas Unbound. Maybe I should play Twiddlestorm. From what I recall, the deck is actually really powerful. Because it combos off so quickly. And I think there's been some new tech added since the last time I checked into it. Maybe I'll play some Twiddlestorm after this as the bonus video that goes up alongside Tron. I can't F6. I have to wait out this Solitaire because, if my opponent actually casts Past in Flames, I have to be ready with the Relic. Fun fact, before Twiddlestorm became a deck, before they printed Lotus Field, I actually tried to make a Twiddlestorm list that wasn't based around, untapping your creatures for mana and such. I made a Twiddlestorm list that was trying to untap, what is it called? Azor's Gateway. And it was fun, but it was terrible. It was worse than the Charbelcher deck that I played the other day, as far as, ability in matches. So, I never ended up posting a video on it, but that was one of my early videos I was working on. Alright. Alright. It looks like my opponent just has double Grape Shot, so they didn't actually need to Past in Flames to kill us, which means our only real way of interacting with them didn't even matter. And we're not running the Amulet of Safekeeping. Secret sideboard tech versus Storm. So unless we have Tron before they combo and play Great Creator into Trinisphere, we're probably going to have a bad time. And actually... yeah, okay. I was going to say, I don't know how Trinisphere works with Splice, but I think it still makes them pay more. If it only makes them pay 3, because they cast, Peer Through the Depths and Splice for 1 more mana, if that counts as paying 3, I don't think it does, but if it does, we'll actually still have a bad time with Trinisphere, because all of their cantrips and stuff will be mana neutral. So what do we do? Run it back, I guess. We don't really have sideboard for this. Yeah, that hand won't do it. This might work, But I think I'm going to go to 5 before keeping this. I'm becoming less of a fan of a hand like this, where it's like, oh yeah, if you get one other Tron piece, you're guaranteed the third. This hand is a lot worse. So we're going to 4. Wow. 3? Alright, Tron piece and stars, let's do it. Okay. So best top decks would be like hitting a Ancient Stirrings in our next 2 cards, getting us another Tron piece that we could lay this other Chromatic Star on, then top decking Sylvan Scrying into basically hitting Karn. Like that's that's the only way I think we really stand a chance against a reasonable hand for my opponent. My opponent could always have a more dirtily hand than that. Alright, let's hope for land or Ancient Stirrings. Ooh, that's a land. Play Sphere. Okay. Well, we drew a land to play next turn, if nothing else. Okay, there's a Worm Coil. Crack for green. Draw Ulamog. Play Forest. Pass the turn. So next turn, my opponent plays Lotus Field and potentially could kill us. If they float mana first, they can use it to start twiddling the Lotus Field, which it looks like is exactly what they're going to do. They cycle Lonely Sandbar. They got nothing. Alright, Sylvan Scrying, which gets us to a tower, but we can't cast Worm Coil. Blast Zone doesn't do it. Even if we had like Field of Ruin effects, it has hexproof anyway. Alright, so we need to draw... So the way that we win this is our opponent has to fizzle this turn, which is never a plan that you want to be on, because if you're relying on your opponent to not have their combo, odds are they have their combo. But we have to not die this turn, untap, draw a Tron land of some kind, play the Tron land, cast Ulamog, which we have to take out one of our own lands with, by the way. And then one of their lands. Then we have to not die again, and then attack with Ulamog and exile all of their win conditions. That is how we win this game. I would put our odds at about 2.5%, maybe 3%, that actually occurs. Even with my opponent having made several mistakes, and it appears as though they are learning the deck right now, which, you know, there's no problem with. I think my opponent is doing a pretty fair job for a person who's recently picked this up. Because I've only seen a couple of like minor play mistakes in like ordering and whatnot. We're probably going to lose because my opponent has cast 3 Ideas Unbound. So they've drawn 9 cards. The upside is if they fizzle, they discard their entire hand at this point. So if they fizzle, we actually stand a reasonable chance of winning. If they don't fizzle... well, I mean, if they don't fizzle, we just die. So, that is the 4th Ideas Unbound. Oh wow, they actually had mana for Past in Flames? I guess they had 2 floating. So the first thing they should do is cast Dream's Grip unless they have a Reach Through the Mists. Yep. Now they can Dream's Grip and then get up to 4 mana, which means they can Ideas Unbound 4 more times, each one effectively giving them 3 mana back for the cost of 3 blue mana. So they're going to draw 12 more cards, which means they should find a Grape Shot. I'm just proud that we assembled Tron off of a Mulda 3. Yeah, there's absolutely no way we win. We don't lose here. There's no way we don't lose because my opponent is holding an inordinate number of cards. They have so many cantrips, and if for some reason all of their cantrips did not get them there, they could just twiddle again and then Past in Flames and just do all of it over. So, yeah. Okay. We'll scoop. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 4. Alright, round 4. Let's see if we can win our entry back, or I guess half of it at this point. You know what? I'm gonna keep. Now, alright, so here's a thing for people who are new to playing Tron, if you are ever in a position where you can no longer like win prize and you're still in a tournament, you know, unless you're really tilted and you just want to quit, I highly recommend continuing to play. And one of the things that is a good experiment is keeping a hand that's a little bit iffy. Wow, someone else is playing Tron this deep in the losers bracket. I wonder if Tron's getting a little not favored. We'll have to adjust all of our tech, I think, to try and make this deck a little bit better in the current metagame. But yeah, no, if you're ever in a tournament and you can't win prize and you still want to play Magic, I highly recommend continuing to play Magic, continuing to try to win, and experimenting with what kind of hands you can keep, because it's an excellent learning experience. If you're still playing in a tournament, odds are you will be playing against decks that are a little bit more meta, especially if they're, you know, if you're not playing in an FNM, because anything goes at that level of Magic, which is fine. You could run into some really cool decks that way. I used to play Time Warps at my FNM before Time Warps was actually a good deck. All right, we'll play map. I probably should have actually played Star there, but because my opponent assembled Tron. It could be Eldrazi Tron. We haven't actually seen any green spells yet, or spheres or stars. Moto is really struggling right now. All right, they play Karn, so we scoop it up because we can't beat a Karn. Okay. No adjustments, we'll run it back. So yeah, my advice is if you're losing with the deck and you get past the point of, you know, I can't come back, I can't win my entry back, I'm out of prize entirely, keep playing your matches as practice. Try not to get tilted. At that point, there's no reason to be tilted. If you have already lost enough that you cannot win anything, there's no reason to be tilted. Just keep playing for fun. You know, and if you completely dunk on some people after that, good for you. And if you don't, then you don't. But, like, I think this is 3 consecutive leagues where I've gone, like, 2 wins or less with Tron now. So, I have a feeling that I'm going to have to build a custom list, not use what's currently, like, the meta, and see if I can build something that can withstand the consistent onslaught of hyper-fast early-game aggro, because we played against that Jund, Death Shadow, Scourge of the Skyclaves deck, like, 3 times. And I mean, if I gotta run Explore in Tron to try and hit Tron on turn 2 and untap with it on turn 3, I will. So, alright, opponent starts Tower, Star. Okay, we untap. Draw Ulamog, not exactly what we want to see. I'd like to hit Sylvan Scrying, Ancient Stirrings is a good draw, and of course Tower would be fine too. But we hit none of those, so we play a Mine, and pass the turn. We basically have to hit Tower here, unless my opponent also is struggling to assemble Tron, which is a possibility. Though they did cast an Ancient Stirrings, which means they are getting a lot deeper in their deck than we are. They found Map, which, okay, they played a non-Tron land. It looks like they're casting Map. Okay, we draw a Relic. So, technically incorrect. I should have just cast the Relic, cracked it, and then drew a card. Or cast the Relic, cracked it to draw, and then played a land if I didn't hit one. So we didn't draw a land though, so we're exactly where we were. It wasn't actually a punt. It was potentially a punt because of what we drew. You know, could have been better. Okay, opponent tutors up an Urza's Power Plant and then plays it. We draw a Tower. And game over. Cool. On to round 3. Now the big problem here is we are going to be on the draw. I actually think I'm going to put Kozilek in here over Ugin. Ugin's fine, it just like doesn't do a lot in the mirror matchup. Okay. But being on the draw in this matchup is a significant disadvantage. Tron so consistently plays Karn or other Karn on turn 3 that your opponent has to keep a hand that stumbles. So to an extent, the only way you beat your opponent is if you have a better hand than they do. And that's a lot harder to have on the draw than it is on the play. But my opponent did just mulligan to 4, and we kept a hand that can play Tron on turn 3. Considering my opponent is on the play and kept 4, they might have it still. So opponent starts Mine Map. We draw a sphere. Play Mine Map. This comes down to if they have another Tron land and they have a threat. And there's nothing we can do to influence that. So, opponent did not have another Tron land, meaning that we are probably going to win this game. Play Power Plant, pass the turn. Opponent cracks map, gets a Power Plant. Plays Power Plant. Alright, looks like we got it. Crack map, get tower. Not making that mistake twice. Play tower. Play Karn. And the game's over. Got there. Cool. So our opponent kept a hand that stumbled, which means we happen to have a better hand and we won. Alright. I'll see you guys in round 5. Alright. Round 5. We'll play first. I can't keep that. Yeah, that's not great either. So, when deciding what to keep when you're playing Tron, and whether or not you should mulligan, the answer is usually you should if the hand is less than ideal. But, like, think about this for a second. We're keeping 6 of these cards, which means we're keeping 3 playable cards. So this is effectively a mulligan to 3. By going to 5, we're getting 2 more playable cards. And with the London mulligan, we get to choose what those cards are. So, like, I could keep from mine over, and that's way better than the previous hand. I'm going to 4, though, because, wow. Yeah, that's pretty abysmal. I'm going to keep this simply because we have 2 Ancient Stirrings, which might get us there. I'm keeping the Relic over the map because my opponent could be playing, like, Dredge or something like that. It is a redraw, but it's not a redraw that gives you... Okay, we're going to get Power Plant. Put the rest to the bottom. It's a redraw that gives you, like, some Grave Hate along the way, not that gives you mana. So it's potentially worse. Alright, opponent is playing Burn, so I should have kept map. So we're going to go ahead and Ancient Stirrings right off the bat. And I'm doing Ancient Stirrings first because that will inform what we need to Sylvan Scrying for. Perfect. Take mine, rest to the bottom. Play Power Plant, play Relic. Next turn, we can Sylvan Scrying for Tower, and we'll have Relic of Progenitus as well. Activation to draw cards, so hopefully we can draw a threat. And kind of hoping that Burn kept a greedy hand with only like 1 land in it. And while that would give them a lot of action, it chokes down how much damage they could do a turn, because if they're limited on mana, like, Burn generally wants to have at least 2 lands, and potentially draw a 3rd if the rest of their hand is action. Okay, and this is Blitz. This isn't just Burn, this is Blitz, because it runs Manamorphose and Prowess creatures. I don't think I've seen what I would classify as, like, a fair Burn deck in a long time. Like, Burn decks used to be, oh yeah, no, they would just bolt you 7 times, and maybe they'll play an Eidolon of the Great Revel, and a few Prowess creatures along the way. And Blitz has gotten, like, more in favor, because it's more consistent, because it draws more cards. So, alright, we have a Karn. Karn is actually not necessarily that great versus Blitz. Generally because they end up with more than 1 threat, and they get just enough mana that it's a little bit of a problem. Like, you can't just take out their mana with Karn. I'm waiting to see if my opponent plays, like, a Lava Dart or something before cracking this Relic. Okay, crash through. So I think ideally our opponent does a lot of damage this turn and just doesn't play another threat. That would be the best for us. They also played that mountain out of hand rather than out of exile. I'm kind of surprised they did not play the Fiery Islet out of exile, because that could give them a critical redraw. Okay, we're going to go ahead and crack Relic. We could hit a Worm Coil here, which I might consider casting over Karn. Another Sylvan Scrying, so play Tower. Play Karn. We gotta take Soulscar Mage, unfortunately, and Karn will likely just immediately bite the dust, because our opponent plays so many bolts. Okay, pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays a Blister Coil Weird, and a Fiery Islet. Okay, we draw Sylvan Scrying, so tick up Karn. Opponent should crack Islet if they don't need the mana to have a better choice for what to exile out of their hand. But they don't do that, and they give us a Flame Slash. Flame Slash not super useful. So in this scenario, what we do is Sylvan Scrying for Blast Zone. Play Blast Zone, and we'll use mine and our floating mana to play an O-Stone. Then we'll pass the turn. So Blast Zone handles all of their threats. It prevents them from playing a pre-combat Monastery Swiftspear. It's sort of like a fog for their Blister Coil weird. Like, we fog the damage this turn from creature sources. They crack Islet. It looks like they're getting pretty mana flooded right now. Okay, they crash through. Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and do this right now. Okay, they play another Soulscar Mage. We draw another Karn, so exile Soulscar. And because my opponent only has 2 cards in hand, I think the play is to play this Karn and tick him up. Okay. We got a Bedlam Reveler, which they weren't going to cast anytime soon. Last card. If their last card's a Bolt, they should have held on to it for their turn. Because the chance that they drew a Monastery Swiftspear and could, like, bolt for additional damage was actually quite high. They did not find it. A part of me really wants to exile this Thragtusk out of my hand and then restart the game. But, I mean, I know that that would probably kill me. Like, my luck is they would draw something that deals 4 damage. Like, they would be the guys playing Flames of the Blood Hand. Or Exquisite Firecraft. Thragtusk is just so much safer. I still think restarting is how we're going to win this game. So if I draw another threat, I'll plus Karn, exile a card out of my own hand, and then restart the game, with hopefully something huge in play. I don't think I've ever had an opponent actually let me restart the game. So, play Star. Get a redraw. It's a map. Sack Peatland. Cool. Exile Thragtusk. Go to combat. Attack for 5. So we would start the game at 25 life with a Thragtusk, but we'd also discard our opening hand to Bedlam Reveler and draw 3 cards. So maybe we don't actually do that. Maybe we just beat our opponent down. Opponent Firebolts Thragtusk, and they're going to flashback Firebolt Thragtusk. We untap. Okay, play Sphere. Crack Sphere for green. Perfect. Plus Karn. Target ourselves. Hit Karn. Now we can restart the game. Okay, we're gonna do it. Restart the game. You know what? We're gonna have to discard the hand anyway, so we'll just keep. Yeah! I think that's the first time I've ever done that in paper or on Moto. But starting with Leyline of Thragtusk, Bedlam Reveler, and Karn is a pretty sweet way to start a game. Alright, I'm just gonna run it back. No adjustments. I could bring in Dismember. I really don't want to. Almost. Yeah, we can work with this. Put back a power plant. Opponent starts a mountain. And crash through. Which I think is one of the worst ways our opponent's deck can start. So, start power plant star. Pass the turn. They crash through again. This time they find a mountain. And they pass. Crack for green, draw a card. Play tower. Play sphere. Crack for green, trying to get as many draws as we can, looking for looking for mine. Not gonna make that mistake again. We need the mine. Alright, take the mine. Rest to the bottom. Pass the turn. Okay. Alright. Opponent plays a third mountain. Into a blood moon, because of course they do. Alright, play mine. Play map. And we're just going to crack map now and get a forest. That way I don't have to do anything on any of my opponent's turns. Pass the turn. The next turn we can play Karn Great Creator, which hopefully my opponent doesn't just immediately bolt to death, but there's a high possibility of that. One plays a 4th mountain, and Moto is just about given up. Play a Swift Spear and attack. Draw a Chromatic Star, so play Snow-Covered Forest. Play Karn. And we're going to go ahead and Wish. And we're going to get Trinisphere. Pass the turn. So if they don't kill Karn, for some reason, we would just wish for Batterskull, because it's a 5-mana life-linking threat rather than a 6-mana one like Wormcoil. Okay, so Karn fogs. Hey, leave that alone. He's reaching up and nosing a clock on the wall. Like, hey, what is this? I've never seen it before. Goofball. We'll play Chromatic Star. Okay, then we'll just play Trinisphere. We're following this up with a Wormcoil engine, which should just win the game. I don't think Blitz, even if they make it to 6 mana, which they have, I don't think Blitz can kill us just casting 2 spells a turn. Okay, they attack for 1. And we're about to hardcast Karn Liberated. This is why Blood Moon is not actually a threat to Tron. Because we can literally just draw lands and then cast our big spells. It's not fast, which is what Tron wants to be, but it doesn't have to be. The only thing that's actually a threat to Tron is if you play Blood Moon and you back it up with a really fast threat. Like, you know, if you've got Blood Moon on the field and you also have a Klothys that is just turned into a creature, then it's a problem. But yeah, alright, cool. We win half our entry back. Let's do a little bit of recapping here, because I've got a couple of minutes before I have to do other things and go to work. So, biggest problem, we're really struggling with Death Shadow and Jund, like really hyper aggro kind of a thing. And this list has 6 massive life gain creatures in the main board. Problem is we just never got to cast them because we were dying on turn 2 and 3 in that range. And I don't know if there was a sphere or a relic effect that gained life. I think I would play it. Like if it was just an artifact bauble type thing that you sacked to gain life and draw a card, I think I would play it at this point. I think I would play it in the relic slot over this list. I don't want to play something like Radiant Fountain. I don't think that's going to be enough. Tron's mana base is tight enough as it is. Like, we have 3 flex slots, and Blast Zone needs to be one of them, and Sanctum needs to be one of them, and the only one that you can really adjust is Nurturing Peatland, which is, like, kind of okay, meh. Nurturing Peatland is fine, and I don't think there's really a better land to put in that slot, so I don't really want to trade it out for a life gain land. You could play Inventor's Fair, which I think would even be worse than Radiant Fountain, because you don't have artifacts that stick around on the board. You want to sack all of your early game artifacts. So I don't think there's anything in the land slot that can actually help us there. The rest of the list is extremely tight, and there's not very many good colorless ways to gain life. Like, I think Sun Droplet or Dragon's Claw is like your best option in colorless. Neither of those are main deckable. Period. Sun Droplet's also way too slow. Golden Urn is way too slow. So I think if we wanted straight life gain, our best bet is something like Life Goes On. There's also... No, just Life Goes On. I really think that's it. So, straight life gain might help, but odds are it won't. The problem is there's no other good colorless removal that we can play other than Dismember or Spatial Contortion. And half the time, those threats that were beating us down, Spatial Contortion doesn't touch. So my other thought is like, oh, well, Grixis Death Shadow and the like hyper aggro decks, they're like all CMC1. What if we just played Chalice of the Void? We have 18 1-drops. So that's not happening. I don't think you could play Tron without them either. You could play Eldrazi Tron, and you can get rid of most of them because Eldrazi Tron is built in such a way to, you know, take advantage of Chalice of the Void. But Green Tron is not, and I don't think it can be. So we're kind of stuck a little bit. And I'm going to think on this pretty hard. And I'm going to see, like, even if I've got to be running some sheer jank just to make this work, I might. I might do some weird testing. So let me know if you have any ideas. Especially if they're not ideas that I just enumerated. I would be really interested to hear them. And no holds barred. If it's janky and it's going to be good versus aggro, let me know. I'm interested. Anyway, I'm sorry for the poor performance. I'm sorry for the punt. We probably could have 3-2'd had I actually grabbed the right Tron land versus Death Shadow. I know that was a pretty rookie mistake. It was kind of embarrassing for me, but I think the average hand in that case killed us anyway. I think it was just kind of like bad feels that our opponent had the one bad setup that we didn't lose to when I did that. And it was for the match, so yes, I did throw that away, and I could have potentially 3-2'd. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say for today. So if you like this video, you want to see more Tron content, please leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. And remember, you can follow me on Twitch, same username you can find me over there on here as you can find me on here. And I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm looking to increase my stream schedule, and once again, I'm sorry there was not a stream last week. There was a lot of crap going on for me in real life. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time. You're all wonderful human beings. Thanks for watching. Bye!